Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, this is an episode of Echoes of the Glories of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With me here I have Dr. Muhammad Gular.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this episode. So this will be a discussion where we'll go over a few ayahs that talk about the manifestations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glory and divinity, al-uluhiyyah. And we highlight the unique qualities that make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone worthy of worship. And today we'll go over some ayahs in Surah Al-An'am. And maybe you can start, going over the ayahs and we'll discuss it.
Jazakumullah khairan. This issue, the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what makes him unique, his attributes, his qualities, his rights over us, and what he has done. This is actually the most important issue for the human being. He really needs to grasp and understand this so that he knows who to worship and why he's worshiping Allah. He needs to understand why Allah deserves to be worshipped alone. And this is the most important issue for his life. This will give him his purpose, his understanding of why he's here and what his life is all about. Internally, in our nature, I think we have some notion of who's Allah, just looking around us. We have something in our fitrah, in our nature, that gives us pointers and feelings. But we really couldn't grasp or understand Allah in our human way if it wasn't for the mercy of Allah, for his revelation, where he directly described himself, described his qualities and his capabilities and what he has done and why he has created the universe. We could never know this unless it was by the mercy of Allah through his revelation, through his last revelation, the Quran Al-Kareem. So we're really, really blessed by having the book. And if we look into the Quran, actually, we notice that a lot of it, a bulk of it, the majority of it is actually describing who is Allah. Allah is describing himself and introducing himself for our benefit so that we can understand who he is and so that we can have a great relationship with Allah. Allah really wants to have a close relationship with us. So these ayat that we're going to read in Surah Al-An'am is just a small sample of descriptions of the greatness and the glory of Allah. So listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about himself. So Allah says, Allah is the one who makes the seed of grain and fruit to burst into life and blossom. It is he who brings forth the living from the dead and the dead from the living. It is Allah who does all these things. Where then are you from being misled? He causes the dawn to appear out of the curtain of the night. It is he who has ordained the night for rest and determined the time of the rising and the setting of the moon and the sun. All these things have been determined by the same all-powerful and the all-wise one. And it is he, Allah, who has sent up the stars for you so that you may find your way in the deep darkness of the land and sea. Behold, we have made our signs clear for those who possess knowledge. And it is he, Allah, who has created you from one single soul and provided for each of you a dwelling place and a repository. We have made these signs clear for those who are men of understanding. It is he who has sent down rain from the sky and thereby caused every kind of vegetation to grow. And then with it produced green fields and trees, and from them brought forth close growing grain, and from the blossoms of palm trees brought forth laden sheets of clustering dates and vineyards, and olive groves, and gardens of pomegranates. Through their fruits resemble each other, yet each one has its distinctive quality. Behold how they bring forth these fruit, and how their fruits ripen. For they are indeed signs in these things for those who believe. After giving these amazing descriptions of what Allah has done, Allah asks a very critical question or makes a very critical observation for us to ponder on. And Allah says, and yet they ascribe partners to Allah. This is actually the greatest crime of the human being. And this is what leads to his destruction. To associate partners with Allah, or in Arabic, what we call shirk. And what is associating partners with Allah? It is actually saying that there are those who are at the same level of Allah, who share his authority. That Allah can say one thing and someone else can override it or have a different opinion. When Allah commands something, says this is forbidden, if I say, or if one says, I have a different opinion, they are actually putting themselves equal to Allah. They're claiming the absurd claim that they have authority to overturn what Allah has said. This is a great breach, and this is a great crime. If we think about all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just talked about himself, how he created us, created the sun and the moon and the stars, and created all these different fruits. Yet someone coming and saying, I have an opinion that's against Allah, it is a great absurdity. And this is associating partners with Allah. So we need to hold Allah in the highest esteem, to single him as a sole authority, just like we see him as a sole creator of the universe. Humankind throughout the ages, they have recognized that Allah is the creator, is the sole creator, but then have associated partners with him in his authority, in his sole seat of showing us guidance. So Allah says, and yet they ascribe partners to Allah. And Allah gives examples like the jinn. Those are part of creation of Allah. Yet Allah gives the example how absurd people have associated the jinn as partners to Allah. So Allah says, and yet they ascribe partners to Allah like the jinn, although He created them, and they falsely attribute to Him sons and daughters without knowledge. Exalted is He and high above what they describe. Allah is the originator of the heavens and the earth. How could He have a child when He has no partner? And He created all things, and He is of all things knowing. That is Allah, your Lord. There is no deity except Him, the creator of all things. So worship Him, and He is disposer of all things. Subhanallah. So it is so absurd to give human-like qualities and deficiencies to Allah, when Allah is perfect and He is the most majestic and He is sublime. He is above His creation. And yet, when humankind gives Him qualities that are human-like, like having a son or a daughter, they're actually saying Allah may be disposed of His throne because He has a son who's going to be a successor. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we seek refuge in Him in associating these qualities of deficiency, that he is weak and that He will be overtaken by a son, or He knows that he will die one day, so He needs a son to overtake His kingdom. Far above are all these deficiencies to Allah. So we really need to know Allah correctly. He is the creator and the originator of the heavens and the earth. And He is all powerful. He is all knowing. So when we know Allah like this, like Allah describes Himself, then we will have the true guidance, and we will know that what Allah says is the best, and what Allah gives us is the true guidance that we need to follow. And we will take no other source as our source of guidance. So Allah is saying, He is Allah, your Lord. There's no deity except Him, because He is the one and the only one who has all these qualities. Nothing else, not the jinn, not any other creation. So He deserves to be the only deity, the creator of all things. So worship Him. And this is the key point, that Allah has no partner and we worship Him alone. What is worship? other than submitting to Allah, to following His commands in every aspect of life. It is not just rituals that we offer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our prayers, as our fasting, as our giving in charity. Yes, we can do all these things, but every aspect of life is actually worship. So when we take Allah as the sole focus of our life, as the sole source of guidance, as the sole one who we trust and we want to come close to, without partner, then we are actually worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says, vision perceives him not, yet he perceives all vision. We should really let that sink in, that vision perceives him not. So we really cannot understand Allah completely, yet He understands everything. This is the being that I want to submit to. This is the being that I want to ask from, because He is the one who is all-knowing. He understands everything. He knows my needs. He knows my deficiencies. He's the one who's created me. So I should submit to Him alone and ask for Him for guidance. So I should not be impolite with Allah and ask Him, why did you do this or why did you do that? How come you let this happen? Because Allah has wisdom in everything that He does. Whatever Allah does or what decides, this is the definition of justice. This is the definition of goodness. And I should know that this is goodness, even if I don't understand. Why? Because He perceives all vision, and yet I don't have that. So He is the subtle, the all-aware. So when we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly, then inshallah, by His blessings, we will be able to submit to Him completely. So our advice to ourselves, to myself, and to everyone on the earth is to follow what Allah says. And as reminded to us by Allah in Surah Shura, Allah says, turn back to your Lord before a day comes from Allah that cannot be turned back. And on that day, you will find no refuge and no denial. So indeed, we're going to go back to Allah. When we die, we're going back to Allah. And He will hold us accountable. And that day, we will have hoped, we will have wished that we worshipped Allah completely.
Absolutely.
So we really need to take heed with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran.
Jazakallah khair. Really appreciate. I mean, there's so much that you actually talked about here. There's a lot of different reflections, so many ayahs. I think the main idea here is that how can we make partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of His creation, right? So you talked about the jinn, and how the Arabs actually ascribed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala partners as jinn, and they actually did not know them. And they were originally, they actually followed the Prophet Ismail alayhi salam, and then before that, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam as well. So, but they slowly deviated from that, and they worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and then they slowly deviated from that until they actually came up with this idea that, hey, we should be worshipping jinn, or we should be ascribing partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the jinn. And that's actually how lost they've become. And then there are also the other ayahs where we talked about ascribing, how could he have a child? SubhanAllah, this is the limitation that humans have, right? Mm-hmm. Humans think that, this is the life we live, and they try to apply some of them try to apply the same idea to everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these limits, and they created this limitation, and they created the humans, and created within the humans the need for successors and children, and then also a need for a companion, like a partner or a spouse, right? But those are all creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, we cannot say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will have a son or needs a child because of humans, because this is the creation. Everything here is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how could He need a son from His creation? Yani? So all of this is, and then also you talked about, you know, the point where vision uh, perceives him not, right? It, our vision is actually a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has its limits, it has its role in this life, is to actually use it as a tool to learn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from his creation, from understanding, looking at the skies, the moon, all the ayahs that you actually mentioned early on. Those are all things that we experience, right? But we don't think about it, we don't reflect on it. But once we use this vision for what it was made for, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it for, this will help us understand, and it will understand the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we'll see all the manifestations that it has in all of the creation. This is a very good discussion. Every time we have a chance to actually reflect on ayahs, we shouldn't just read these ayahs as just reading it, but we should just ponder, think about, because these are all signposts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us some things, right? And we should take it and apply it to our lives and see how it actually applies to our lives. Jazakallah khairan. This is a very good session, and as you said, we could really wrap up by reading the ayah from Surah Shura, like you mentioned. O people, turn back to your Lord before day comes from Allah that cannot be turned back. On that day, you will find no refuge and no denial. That's it. This is the time that you could turn back, right? That will end here. Jazakallah khair for this meeting, and this is a very good episode. Jazakumullah khairan for watching our episode. This was episode 1 of Echoes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glory. Stay tuned for more episodes to come. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.